Wait a minute. Hi, hold on a second. I'm trying to get the music going. There we go.
Sithembiso senkosi siphakathi zona wakuqinisa ngegazi asithembisa khona udlula izulu nomhlaba uzigcibele ngezindaba ngebhaka iwesaba umethemba uJesu yenza njengo-Abrahama.
This is the sound of a group out of South Africa called Lady Smith, Black Mubazo, and I've been listening to them for years. And when I began to bring music into my early childhood classroom, I included this as well. I used not just music from Disney and not music from that are in the nursery rhymes, but music from people who made records. I used Michael Jackson's "Want to Be Starting Something," just like as a precursor to before we began our day, and when we would be painting, or when we would be engaged in an activity that was relatively quiet and soothing. I would put on the instrument, the music, the classical music, where basically is orchestration. And music has always been a part of my classroom. And there's a specific book, and you can see I'm near the window, and it's nighttime. Yeah, I'm doing this at night, but it doesn't matter. Um, Simply because I was going to do this earlier today, didn't have the time, but I still wanted to do it. I still wanted to do this 15-minute, I guess you would call it program relating to books, and I wanted to do it and post it so that you would be able to see it. Now, here's a specific book about Africa. It says When Africa Was Home, and I haven't read it yet, but I saw it in the store and I just glanced through it and I thought, yes, I can put this in my school library, at my school, and I'll read it, and then I want to add different materials to it, maybe such as animals, or such as food, or anything from the continent, and what specific country that's spoken about in this particular book. So that's what you were hearing when I first turned this on. I've seen them in person, and they at the Annenberg Center, just terrific. And when I would play this, and my children and my students and I would sit down and listen to it, and then they would ask questions. Well, Miss Sadie, what are they singing? And I said, I don't know, it's in a different language. And perhaps I would look up and find the language that they were singing in. There's so many different languages on the continent of Africa, with all its what? I don't want to get it wrong. 67 countries, I think. So at any rate, I would always try and answer their questions, regardless if it's about a song or music that's playing, if they hear a musical instrument in the background, and I would try and answer their questions, on that. The good thing is they were asking questions because children are very curious about what's going on in their world. So tonight, it's all about books, and I would say it's very important. I would say for you and your child, this should be the most important book that you keep with you and beside you, perhaps in your room, or you can keep it if you have a den, in a desk drawer, any place where it's going to be used. Dictionary. I think I mentioned a dictionary on one of my videos. Oh, there's something going on outside. I've got my windows up. And the reason I said dictionaries as opposed to Google is simply because of the pictures. Children are drawn to colors, and they're also drawn to pictures. Now, let's say if we were looking up and we had been studying flowers, and flowers is our area of study. We talk about the stem, the petal, other pieces to flowers. But suppose the child asked me, say, well, what is the petal for? Or what is the stem for? Why do we call it a bouquet? I said, I don't know, let's look it up. So, we would get the dictionary out. And in the dictionary, when you're looking under the letter F, you could come across this. And this is a feather. Well, we're looking for flower, not feather. To a child, somebody said, that looks like a flower. I said, you think so? It doesn't have any feathers. Well, it doesn't have any petals. What do you think? You see? Oh, it is a feather. What about over here? I don't know. That looks like it could be a flower, but it says it's a fern. So at least we've had a conversation about these two items that are in the dictionary, okay? Now, as opposed to talking about a flower, let's look it up. Oh, there it is. Flower. What have they learned? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Did they learn anything about looking at a flower, not a flower, feather and a fern? Not necessarily, but at least it's conversation, and we can get back to that later. Think, remember a couple of days ago, perhaps we were doing a flower activity and we're finished. Well, what was that other thing that Sadie we saw in that book? Oh, you mean the fern that we saw in the dictionary? Let's get it out and look at it. That's simply how things happen. I guess you might say sequentially, children remember certain things that are of interest to them. All right? They're not going to remember that you Googled something on the phone and just got an answer just like that. Investigation takes a little time, and it's okay. You can investigate all you want. Here's my first book I'd like to introduce to you. It's called I Am Enough. And it says it's by Grace Byers. I saw this in Walmart during the summer. And simply just because of the illustration of just the face of this little girl and her hair, I bought it. Haven't read it yet. I've had it for a while. But I will read it. I've seen pictures inside, and I'm going to share it with my preschool students and my pre-K students. Here's another book called What a Treasure. I haven't read this one either. I have so many that I haven't read. And I believe I stated to parents, older siblings, grandparents, if you're going to read to a young child, don't do it without having read the story first. Don't just go in there blind, simply because you don't know what's going to happen next. And when you're reading, you should be able to say what's going to happen next. Mole dug and dug. He dug until he found a shell. Snail crept over. Oh, what a treasure! She exclaimed. Using your voice, you have to be excited if they're excited in the book. Just reading the same thing this way. Mole dug and dug. He dug until he found a shell. Snail crept over. Oh, what a treasure, she exclaimed. There's no interest there. You will not get any interest there. There was a young lady that used to come to our classroom when I was with Head Start, and her name was Cricket. And I'll never forget, she brought a book called The Boo-Hoo Baby. And what she was attempting to get the teachers to understand is, don't just read any book. You decide if it's appropriate for your class. Remember I said you need to know your children, and then you can choose to read it. And what the Boo-Hoo Baby was about, it was a parent that was attempting to read a story to a child, and all the baby did was boo-hoo-hoo-hoo. She was really good at giving us suggestions and ideas and bringing in just terrific books for our children. This says fiesta. Que más? What else? Yes, it's in Spanish. And I don't speak a lot of Spanish words correctly, but I try. And I study them over and over again, and I'm pretty good with it. So, and I practice. Now this says 3 little animals. Tres animalitos. Animalitos. That's animals. ¿Qué más? What else? Oh, 4 aviones. That's 4 airplanes. So if I'm choosing to read this story, I have to know. I have to know the correct pronunciation, or you're just going to lose your audience. You're just going to lose your audience. I have a lot of books that have stories in them that are in Spanish as well as English. A lot of books about things other than animals. This one is about rivers. Would I read this to my students? I believe so. I haven't read it yet. But I'm looking at the splashing, looking at the water. Look at that. Are they going swimming? Don't know. You have to know. Oh, I see they've got poles. Maybe they're going fishing. Even if you're reading the story, You have to know ahead of time what it is you want to say, what you want to illustrate, what you want to pick out. Like I see two raccoons. They're not beavers, they're raccoons. And also a duck. What are they doing here to read? Let's read and find out. And you don't always have to do a story all the way through. Sometimes you need to save something for another time, like the next night. All right? And I suggest reading during the course of the day and then at night too. You don't have to limit yourself in your reading to your child or grandchild or older siblings, to your younger brother and sister, to just once in the evening. You know, but it does need to be done daily and done with enthusiasm. Have a lot of fun with it. Where is the very hungry caterpillar? Now, Eric Carle, oh gosh, when I first started a lot of his books, I can't even think of the other ones, the gorilla or something like that, the very hungry caterpillar, just so many. And I have a lot of them, but like they're a storage bin. Who else? Let's see. Elmer. Oh my gosh. Elmer and the Lost Teddy. Now wait a minute. Here's Elmer right here. And I do have Elmer, but unfortunately he's in my storage. Here he is. He's in my storage bin also. And Elmer is gorgeous. He is, I guess you might say, a bit of many colors. And we also add a story extender to this, as well as an activity, an art activity. When we read the book about Elmer. Here's a book about farm animals. Farm animals. Some books are just, I don't know, not necessarily for, some books, they're just fun. Bear says. Thanks. Now this is a smaller version of Bear Wants More. That's one story about the bear. Here's one about Carol. It says 5-minute Biscuit stories. Now Biscuit is the puppy, but if you're limited with time, just choose ahead of time a short story and read it about Biscuit, okay? Because otherwise, kids are going to be kind of like falling asleep on you, and they will have missed, what's really fun and what's important in the story. Something I want to share with you that I found in a thrift shop. I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I looked to my right, I looked to my left. For some reason, when I find something that I just get excited about, somehow or another, I think to myself, somebody else is going to get it. They're going to snatch it. I don't think anybody wanted this but me. I bought this for my infants. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Next one, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Which one is this? Oh, London Bridge is falling down. You have to look at the picture on that one. Your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And I would just let it play and play until it played out. Then I'd wind it back up again. Also do a lot of stories about farm animals, zoo animals, just animals that live in the wild. Then we have discussions about the animals, the kind of foods they eat. Is it cold where they live? Is it hot? Is it warm? Do they live in a jungle? Do they live in a forest? So many questions. We have discussions about this guy and this guy. Hold on. And I remember those discussions. Now, we look at them, right? Okay. Are they the same or are they different? And I wasn't trying to confuse the children. I had to check it out myself. First of all, let's look at the hands. We'll look at the paws. Now, this guy's got claws. So what do you think? Some kind of bear? What about this one? No It's okay to say you don't know. We looked it up and we found the answer. Yeah, this is a cousin to Elmer. You see? He's just a regular gray elephant. And I always would put animals together, saying how they were related cousins, generally cousins, okay? Elmer, like I said, Elmer's got all of the colors, and he doesn't. It's okay. Is that right? Is that right? Other thing I wanted to share with you, besides all of the different books, and the one thing that within the classroom that I thought was very important, and I talked to my students about and asked them, and even when I would go out and do workshops, and I would ask my participants in the workshop, can you do stories without? And I learned this from the workshop. Can you do stories without books? And they weren't sure if it was a trick question or not. And they would look at each other, and some would say, yeah, I guess. And others would say, no. Well, it depends on how comfortable they were with it and if they'd ever done it. And I would say, well, if you've not ever done a story uh, without a book, I can show you how you might want to do this. And whenever would do a workshop, I would make suggestions and give them ideas, but never saying flat out, well, this is what you need to do. Because to me, a workshop is to share information, to give guidance, and to learn. All of that. So here is a story about a book. And I would have about maybe just three animals. Here's my three animals. I've got the elephant, I've got the lion, and I've got the giraffe. And I would start off telling the children that we had to be quiet because we were taking the children to the jungle, through the Serengeti. And to them it sounded like spaghetti. They said, what? I said, it's in That's the rain coming down. And listen, yeah, that's the rain coming down. I said, and then I hear the drums. I beat the drum once or twice. I said, and then it would happen. Hmm, hmm, hmm. And that would be the elephant walking through the Serengeti. Then, and a lion. And then a giraffe. Now the giraffe was the tallest, so he could see all over the land. And he could look out and see if there were other animals around. But you know what? The giraffe, being the tallest of all of the animals, he was very lonely because no one was as tall as he. And he had no one really to walk with, to talk with. But he could see who was out there, so he started walking toward the elephant and the lion. And the lion looked up at him and he thought to himself, wow, he's really tall. And I thought that I was king of the jungle. Well, he really is. It's just that the giraffe is the tallest one in the jungle. Then they saw the elephant. The elephant is huge. He's really big. Okay? So, these three animals became friends. Why? They lived in the same area. There really weren't any other people, any other animals around that looked like them, that ate the same type of food they ate, or went to places that they did. So, they chose to kind of like hang together, okay? And that's it. It doesn't have to be long-winded. It doesn't have to be really, super profound. Just a little light story. And if nothing else, just the animals with learning the ages, just the animals. I have a few more books that I wanted to share, and this is the Magic Moonberry Jump Ropes. I haven't read that one. So many I haven't read, so many I'm familiar with, and so many that I'm not. Here's one, A Visitor from Air. And the reason I believe, I read that, years ago, that stories are made about animals for very young children is because children give them what is called not animal, an animalistic being, meaning that they give them human qualities, you know, and they hear stories and they see cartoons where animals are talking and things like that. In their young mind, they can't. So, oftentimes, I would say most of the time, stories that are written for very young children are about animals. Now, here's the bear I was speaking about. Bear feels scared. These are his friends in the forest. I'm going to have to check that out and find out why he's afraid. Oh, and one of my classic favorites, The Gingerbread Man. In one of our nursery rhymes, it's Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty, you should know that one. You know, sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Well, someone decided to write a story, what they call an aftermath, about what happened to Humpty after the king's men couldn't put him back together again. So, I have that book. I'm going to read it, and then I'll decide whether I'm going to share that with my students. I probably will, but I'll just be interesting to see the spin that they put on a nursery rhyme about Humpty Dumpty. Well, that's about it for now. I think it's been about 20 minutes, and there's no way that I can go through the books and the stories and how it's going to be presented. But if you will stay tuned to my Patreon, Fun Factory, Early Childhood Education channel platform, you'll get to see how it's going to be done, how you can become a part of that and support that, and how it's going to help your family, your child, your children to just have a great desire to learn to read. We have to do our part. The materials will be coming, the books will be coming, but we have to do our part. So from now until the end of September, I'll continue to post videos regarding the process, and it is a process, and take you through the part maybe once or twice as far as how you can support the Patreon channel, Fun Factory, Early Childhood Education, with me, Miss Sadie. I hope this has been of some use to you, and I'm still trying to work out the kinks, and it's just like when I be in the classroom, working out kinks in the classroom. I have a quick story for you. We had trash cans, around the classroom, and the rule is you put your trash in your trash can, especially at lunch. Well, the supervisor came to my classroom one afternoon, and I asked her could we schedule a conference for a little later, because she had scheduled it for my class's lunchtime. And she, oh, no, she had to be there at that time, so I'm like, okay. And my room wasn't very big, but I arranged it so that at least we had a nice flow. Okay, we're sitting there, we're going over paperwork for the children, but I was eating my lunch at the time because tables were set up and the children were eating their lunch, and she and I were talking. We didn't have an assistant that day. At any rate, when I finished my lunch, I put it in the bag and I stood up. Trash can was in the corner, which was just a couple of feet away. I stood up, and you know how you go to do something and you want to stop it, but you just can't? I threw it in the trash can. It went in the trash. But as I was doing that, one of my students, Talia, I will never forget it. Talia was getting up from her lunch table, and she stopped. She looked. I knew I was busted. I knew I was caught. She literally stopped halfway up. She said, Miss Sadie. I said, yes, Talia. She said, did you throw that trash in the trash can? I said, yes, I did, Talia, and I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done was walked around the table and put it in the trash. So she finished standing and walked over to the trash. But the way she looked at me, like, I don't believe this. She tells us to put trash in the trash can, and she walked over from there. So my supervisor, she looked at me and she looked up to me. She said, you let her say that to you? I said, say what? Asking you about putting things in the trash. I said, that's a rule. That's what I taught them. And if I taught them that, I have to abide by it too. Supervisor, she was just flabbergasted. Well, there's no need to be flabbergasted. If that is a rule and that's the expectation, I can't do any differently. I'll never forget that. You see, did I see you throw it? I tell you, there are just memories and memories and more memories. And I had this book sitting here. And this is a book of poems. We're going to be doing poetry too. I think I channel. Here we are. Yeah. I specifically chose this one. It's about channels. Now, it might not have to do with TV, but that's not why I took it. Here we are. Channel number one's no fun. Channel two's just news. Channel three's hard to see. Channel four is just a bore. Channel five is all jive. Channel six needs to be fixed. And channel seven and channel eight, just on movies, not so great. Channel 9's a waste of my time. Channel 10 is off, my child. Wouldn't you like to talk a while? I'll see you in the classroom.